Welcome to the first installment of the Ideal Disciple Discovery Process Behind the Scenes Tour. In this series, we journey into the heart of effective discipleship strategies, uncovering the methods that drive successful church outreach. Today, we begin our exploration in Phoenix, Arizona, where the connection between church and community lays the foundation for impactful engagement. Join us as we dive into a detailed demographic report, shedding light on the community's composition and needs. We'll unveil the insights that empower the pastor that we interviewed in this report, the approach to better serve his congregation.
There's actually two studies that I'm going to want to look at here today. But just before we go into I have the full report inside of the slides that I sent over to you. But this was the basic breakdown. Some of the key demographics that we found. The one demographic, the population is around 400,000. The median age is 31. It's actually a fairly young group of people for that area. The average household size is 3. The median household income is around 60,000. And there are a few other things I want to look at in here before we move on. It's a 39-page report, which has a lot of good detail. But we just looked at that. Some of the stuff I don't find necessarily useful, but it's just good information to know. This one, the current adult marriage. So it shows about 42% of adults are married in the area. 9% have been divorced, and then 46% have never been married, which kind of makes sense with the age demographic. It seems like there are a lot of younger people in the area. Have you noticed? I know that Phoenix in general there's been a lot of people moving to that area. Would you say it's been mostly like younger people, like younger professionals moving into the area where you guys are?
I think so. In fact, we just had a new member. She moved in. Some houses that just built. She's like 27.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure a lot
of 3 or 4.
Can you repeat that one more time? I didn't hear you, sir.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I said yes, I had a member who moved in the area, and so I would say that is accurate.
Awesome. I know. I heard a lot of people were moving there from California and stuff too. Did she come from California?
No, I think she said she came from the East Coast. I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I have heard a lot like that. Phoenix is a major destination city.
It is one of the fastest growing cities in the country. So.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. A lot of younger people, especially, are looking for places that are a little bit more affordable, a little bit less, restrictive. Like a lot of people are leaving California, leaving New York, and going into. I know even Atlanta is fast growing, parts of Florida, and I know Phoenix was definitely on that list. When we look at the generational mix, we see about 28% are Gen Z, so that is like kids, children. 28% is millennials, so a lot of younger people. Generation X is 17%, and then baby boomers are 12%. So definitely a large millennial population in that area. And then population by race, 48% Hispanic. that's definitely unique. Large Hispanic population. 2 or more races, 15%, Asian 2%, Black 11%.
Yeah.
And then white 24%.
Now, what is that geographic? What area is that? Phoenix. I mean, is it?
Well, it actually looks at, if you see here, it takes where your church is located, and then it goes into Phoenix. It doesn't but it stays all within this metro area. So within about, I would say, around a 15-mile radius.
Okay.
Do you maybe does this kind of say, does the same numbers seem accurate closer to where the church is located? Maybe not as far out as the Phoenix area. Does it seem pretty accurate?
I think it's accurate. I live in Peoria, which is past Glendale. You see Glendale there?
Oh, yeah.
I live in Peoria, so and I have members that live in Avondale, Mesa, Tempe.
Oh
Maybe
wow, so it's pretty. So there is like a lot of people commuting and things of that sort.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, and what's the like? What would you say that is the drive time for them coming from those different areas?
For me, it's about 30 minutes.
Okay.
I think for most, it's about 30.
So would you say that because I know like here in Atlanta, we drive to places, right? So like you're gonna have to like we go to a church 45 minutes away from us.
Okay.
Right? So like to get anywhere in Atlanta in the metro area is 45 minutes. Like you just kind of know that. Is it similar in Phoenix?
Yeah, except I would say more 30 minutes.
Okay.
Although traffic is picking up, but depending on what time of day,
And Sunday, there's usually not going to be much traffic. So,
no. But
okay.
one of the things that's I think significant in that is weekday events. So Bible class, prayer meetings, that kind of stuff. That's where we have to be more, I think, creative.
Yeah.
And being hybrid, so virtual as well as in person.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's definitely going to be a part when we get to the strategy portion. We're definitely want to keep all of those things in mind and make sure we accommodate for that.
Okay.
But that every time I do this report, there's always certain unique features and definitely a large Hispanic population. And I even pulled up I'll go here real quick, but so what this report actually shows all of these are like all of the churches in that area.
Yeah.
So it actually did a breakdown of like church membership in the area. And it's actually like the top 5 religious groups within that region. Catholics number one. So there's more Catholics than any other group. From there, you have non-denominational churches. So there's it's far less in terms of like members, but there's way more congregations. So Catholicism seems to be the big the big one there.
And that's expected for Hispanic populations.
Right. Absolutely. That was the first thing I thought. The third is Latter-day Saints, Mormons. So they have a large population. Muslim has a pretty significant portion as well. And then the final is the Southern Baptist Convention.
Okay.
So those are the top 5. So that definitely makes sense. The National Missionary Baptist Convention, that received the largest change. So there was actually a large pickup, actually 2,400% over the past 10 years. So that's actually interesting, and more congregations have formed out of that group. But beyond that,
I would ask where they got that from. How did they obtain that?
Well, they make an entire the group that makes it's the same group that made the demographic report that we're looking at made this group as well. So I think they take it from the census data. Okay. So they find they also review congregations in the area as well. Okay. So I would say I don't think anything's 100% accurate, but
no, but I mean, because of course it is polling basically. So,
so you keep, but it gives you some sense of some of the trends and where the area is going in terms of like religious affiliation. But it's definitely apparent that there is a large Catholic and Hispanic population.
I'm sorry.
No.
One of the things that's not there is Pentecostal or Church of God in Christ.
I think they categorize that with non-denominational. For some reason, I'm not sure why, but I think they kind of put all of that into the non-denominational bucket. Okay. For some reason, I don't know why they wouldn't, because Pentecostalism is like probably the fastest growing, but I think they just put that as non-denominational. Okay. And they're like, we're not sure what to put, how to categorize.
That was in the last 10 years?
Yeah. Okay. It's all based from 2020, so from the last census.
Okay. Okay.
So in terms of like projections for race, so right now in 2023, there's currently 240,000 Hispanics, and they're projecting by 2028 for that to increase, not terribly a lot, but by 10,000 people. And then for African Americans, it increased from 54,000 to 61,000.
Okay.
And then they're showing the income breakdown. So people who make less than 15 or around 15,000, that represents about 11%. Between 15 to 24,000, 7%, 25 to 30, 34, 9%, 35 to 40, to about 50, 12%, 50 to 75, about 18%, 75 to 100, about 13%, 100 to 150, about 15%, 150 to 200 is 5.9, and then above 200 is about 5.5.
Okay.
Now, I remember reading in the form that I had you fill out that when the church first started, that it was I think the target was migrant workers, like reaching out to migrant workers.
Right, yeah.
Would you say that there are still a lot of like migrant workers in the area?
No, so the migrant workers started, that would be in Maricopa. So the church relocated a number of times.
Mhm.
And so when the church first started, it was in Maricopa. And so it was planted in a migrant worker area where they did harvesting. And then it moved to the city and moved to Phoenix and it moved around a little bit but by that time, many of the people, because it was primarily African American, and they were migrant workers. But of course, over time that shifted. So
Right.
so then I think we probably went more with factory workers. There were a number of individuals who worked in Motorola. They worked for Sperry Rand, for a number of the other companies. So that's what the workers did. And then there was some domestic work as well.
Got it. How would you view sort of the economy of the area now? What would you say that many of the people in the community, is it more like white collar, or is there still a lot of like blue collar people in the area?
There's still quite a few blue collar. Let's say still blue
Okay.
collar. Working for the city, working for the state, working for a number of the industry, tech industry, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then of course, and then the other piece would be service, because there's a lot of service industry here too. So
Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Okay, so this is this is just a repeat of what we looked at before. The millennials are the largest group at 28%. Right after, and Gen Z is basically right after that, at 27%. So it's definitely a younger group of people that are there.
okay. Which is interesting for this area, because I think over time, remember, this was the place that people came to retire.
Right. That's what I thought as well. So that shift towards younger people living there seems to be something that happened recently.
Yes.
Would you say?
I think so. I think as the population aged, relocating as a senior is difficult. And so we have like Sun City, a number of people moved, like their parents moved here, and then they end up their children coming to take care of them, because you don't have family, so you don't leave them out.
Right.
And so that's sort of, I think, what happened. And so there's definitely a shifting. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. So just a few more facts, and we'll get into some of the segmentations of the population.
Okay.
But so the number of people living below poverty is 24,000. So 20% of households below the poverty level, 3% of households with public assistance income, 18% households receiving food stamps or SNAP, 77,000 somewhat struggles with healthcare costs, 54,000 completely struggle with healthcare costs, and then median home values about 300,000 or so. With employment, 56% white collar, 28% blue collar, and then 17% service jobs, 4.7% unemployment rate. And then I'll just look at a few more of these. Married with children, about 26,000 people, 17,000 single mothers, and then 6,000 single fathers.
Now, what is that? That's for the area, for that entire area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then I'm not going to deal too much with these. It says 11% of people volunteered for a charitable organization in the last 12 months.
Okay.
So it's 5% lower than the United States average, which is 16% for an area. Okay. So it's a bit lower. And then 19% contributed to a religious organization in the last 12 months, which is 6% lower than the United States average, which is 25.
Okay.
In terms of political leanings, it's pretty down the middle in a lot of ways. There's not, well, obviously, maybe people don't really say which way that they lean, but it looks like it's a bit more Democrat than Republican, and then a lot of people as independent.
In Phoenix,
That.
that's true because Maricopa County is more Democrat than the
Mhm.
state, and the state is, they've
More
identified the
Republican.
state as being purple. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that falls in line.
After this enlightening conversation, pastors, I invite you to discover how these insights can transform your church's engagement. Schedule a meeting with us and let's embark on this journey together. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. Stay tuned for the upcoming episodes where we delve deeper into the ideal disciple discovery process.